Hey everyone, it's Eve. So I have been testing out the fragrances from Chris Collins. I purchased their discovery sets from the official website, and I'm just focusing on 3 today because I want to give each fragrance a lot of time to really describe them and tell you how I truly feel about them. So the 3 that I'll be focusing on today are Sweet Taboo, Renaissance, and Harlem Nights. If you don't know who Chris Collins is, I'm pretty sure that most of you have probably seen his face in a lot of magazines in the past. So he was a brand ambassador and a model for Ralph Lauren. And he eventually decided to start up his own brand for fragrances. So a lot of the fragrances that he created are inspired by a lot of his experiences and stories from New York and Paris. So I think it's really interesting to kind of experience both cities in the form of these scents. Now, I don't know the exact inspiration for each fragrance, so I can't really speak on that. So I'll just tell you what I feel and what I kind of imagined when I wear these scents. I'll first talk about Sweet Taboo. And this is a fragrance that I really enjoyed from this line. It's not my favorite one, we'll get to that later, but this is a really good one in my opinion. I like the spiciness of it, and there's a little bit of this floral aspect to it, and then later on it turns into this very edible type of fragrance. So in the opening, when I first spray it, I get this blast of geranium. It is quite strong on my skin. That is probably the #1 note that I smell the most when I apply it to my skin. And geranium, to me, it kind of can come off as one of 2 things. So one is rosy geranium, which is what I tend to get from the dry down of a lot of citrus fragrances like Orange Sanguine, for example. But in this one, the geranium is kind of like this green herbal note. And it's actually very similar to the geranium that I smell in Chanel's Boy from the Les Exclusive line, if you've smelled that. There is that similarity, but with that geranium, I also get this hint of citrus, but not like a juicy citrus. It's more like the dried rind of an orange peel. And it also has a little bit of spiciness, I think from cinnamon, and then this sticky quality that reminds me of like spilled coffee. So I forget if coffee is one of the notes in this. I don't think that I smell any of the coffee from this, at least like coffee beans or the drink itself, but it has this texture that reminds me of the stickiness of coffee. I'm not sure if that makes any sense, but that's what I mostly got. And then maybe after 30 minutes, it dries down into this almost musky cacao. And the cacao in this is quite rich and decadent. So I think this is a great one to try out if you are a fan of chocolate in your fragrances and if you want something really delicious. But it's quite different from a lot of chocolate fragrances I've tried because of how it pairs the geranium and the chocolate together. So I think it's quite a unique fragrance, and one that you should try out if you kind of want to make a statement with something that isn't too offensive. Speaking of making a statement, this fragrance performs quite well. This one was able to last about 9 hours on my skin. It projects a lot. I could smell it when I have a mask on, and I think others can smell it on me. So I would say the performance on this in general is pretty impressive. Next up is Renaissance, and I'll be honest, I think this is my least favorite from the line. This one just wasn't for me, and I'll explain why in a second, but when I first spray it, it is quite sweet, and I don't mind that so much. It's like this very warm, powdery honey, like you got this honey and then kind of powderized it. And the honey in this is like a high quality type, like a raw honey, not, you know, one that you get from the squeeze tube. So it's a rich type of honey, and then I get a lot of spiciness. So there is a hint of ginger, but I also get a lot of cinnamon. I would say that's probably the most predominant spice that I smell off of my skin. But the dry down is where it doesn't really fit my taste. So after about 15 minutes, it turned into this aquatic and marine type of fragrance. And that is a fragrance that I just don't really enjoy wearing on myself. It was as if this tidal wave kind of came and washed away the spices. I mean, the spices are still there, but they definitely go into the background, and I mostly get this marine note. So it's one that I think you can try out and might enjoy if you like marine type of fragrances, but that is just not for me. Another reason why I didn't enjoy this as much, I think, is because it actually reminded me of a fragrance. And that fragrance is Polo Red from Ralph Lauren. I did do a full review on that fragrance, and if you watched that, you would know that it wasn't a favorite fragrance of mine. It's okay, it's not a terrible fragrance, but it just didn't suit my taste, and I just felt like it could have done more. So fortunately with this one, I would say this is a lot more interesting than Polo Red, but I just can't separate the common thread that runs through both of them. I definitely think that there is something very similar on the dry down at least. But I do wonder if when this was made, I wonder if it was kind of like a nod to Chris Collins' time with Polo Red when he was a model. I don't know if that was intentional, but yeah, there is just something very similar with both fragrances. Performance on this is decent. It lasted about 7 to 8 hours on my skin. The projection and sillage was softer than Sweet Taboo, I think, but I can still smell it when I'm wearing a mask. So performance on this is good. So if you like Polo Red and you want to try something that is similar to that but kind of adds a punch to it, this might be a good one for you to try. Last but not least is my favorite from this line, and it is Harlem Nights. And I loved it so much that I am planning to purchase a full bottle of this in the wintertime or autumn time. The notes do make it seem like it's a wintertime type of fragrance, but I've been wearing this during some summer nights and I don't feel choked out by it at all. There is almost something delicate about it that makes it work when it is hotter. But I think if I wanted to wear this in the daytime, I'd probably wait for the winter months to do so. But Harlem Nights is so beautiful, and it did give me an image in my mind when I wore this. But I'll first tell you what it smells like to me. Harlem Nights overall is an edible sandalwood. That's what I mainly get from this. And I get a little bit of this bite or this spiciness from, I want to say it's saffron, and I get a little bit of this alcohol accord, like a rum or some type of liquor, but it's very faint. That's not the focus of the fragrance. To me, what I mostly get is the sandalwood, and then later on it just melts into this creamy sandalwood with more of the vanilla. And I just love how the vanilla kind of plays with that sandalwood. So that's what I mostly get. It's quite minimalistic. There isn't too much of a development, but I do find it to be quite beautiful and so easy to wear. I think it's one of the easiest woody fragrances to wear, and it can really be worn by anyone. The performance on this is a little bit softer, but I like that. And when I tell you the image that I get in my mind about this, I'll kind of explain why I think that's important. But it is softer in the sillage. It lasts, I mean, decent amount of time, like 6 to 7 hours. Not extremely long, but it is quite good. Now, I'm gonna try to tell you what I see when I wear this fragrance. And it is quite some people might say that it's too detailed and too flowery, but I did get this very distinct and detailed image in my head. So Harlem Nights to me is a conversation, a very intimate conversation between two people. that maybe haven't seen each other for a long time. Maybe they were high school sweethearts and they just never made it together, but then they finally find each other and then they have this deep conversation with each other at a bar or maybe at a lounge over a couple of drinks. So in that bar, if this was like a movie and then you see this on camera, I would imagine that the background is quite messy and a little bit boisterous. There's a band playing and there's a lot of people just laughing and making a lot of noise in the background. But the camera just focuses on these two people having this good conversation over drinks. And the background is kind of blurred out. And even though the back might be noisy, the couple, what they're not hearing is the band that's playing in the bar. It's like they're so in their universe, that small place that they're in together, that they hear more, I guess, slower music. Whenever I put this on, I always think about a lot of the songs from John Coltrane's Ballads album, and maybe some songs from that is what's playing in their head while they're talking to each other. And they're just getting lost in each other while they're talking. And I think the beauty of this fragrance really captures that intimate conversation between the two. So I think this offers something very different from all the other type of edible and sweet and saccharine type of fragrances that are flooding the market right now. I think this offers something a little bit more subdued, but it is quite memorable still. And it obviously made an impact on me. And some people might say that this is too simplistic, but I just love how the sandalwood smells like in this fragrance. And yeah, it just gave me that visual of these two people getting lost with each other, just talking. So those are my thoughts on these three fragrances. I hope you enjoyed it. I think overall they are really good quality fragrances. I enjoyed two of them a lot. One, Renaissance, wasn't really my jam, but I could see people enjoy that one if you're into aquatic scents. But my most favorite has to be Harlem Nights for sure. So let me know if you've tried anything from this house, or if not, is there something out of these three that interests you the most? Let me know. And I'll leave it here and I'll see you again next time. Yeah, just continue to stay safe and stay healthy, and I'll see you again. Bye.